Today is the last day in ordinary time before we begin our Lenten journey. And our gospel today comes from Mark chapter 8. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. After feeding the crowd, Jesus sent them away and got into the boat with the disciples to return to the other side of the lake. Now the disciples had forgotten to bring any bread, and they had only one loaf with them in the boat. And Jesus cautioned them, saying, "Watch out, beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and the yeast of Herod." They said to one another, "It is because we have no bread." And becoming aware of it, Jesus said to them, "Why are you talking about having no bread? Do you still not perceive or understand? Are your hearts hardened? Do you have eyes and fail to see? Do you have ears and fail to hear? And do you not remember? When I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000, how many baskets full of broken pieces did you collect?" They said to him, 12. "And the 7 for the 4,000, how many baskets full of broken pieces did you collect?" And they said to him, 7. Then Jesus said to them, Do you yet not understand?" The Gospel of the Lord. The disciples certainly don't come off very well in our Gospel today. In fact, Mark's Gospel as a whole is very, very hard on the disciples. And by extension, he's very hard on us. Jesus was warning the disciples in the boat to be aware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod. Leaven was what was used to, of course, raise bread, but it was also a fermenting agent. And for Jewish people, anything that was fermented was unclean. And so what he was referring to was the narrowness of the Pharisees, the way in which they looked at the world by a very, very narrow interpretation of the law. And on the other hand, Jesus was also warning his disciples against the corruption of Herod, the worldliness that Herod represents. The disciples are concerned about the fact they don't have a lunch with them and hear Jesus' words in terms of their own concerns. But the lesson that Jesus is hoping to teach them is that if we looked at Jesus, we would see he is there always with us. He's always provided for us in the past, and he will provide for us in the future. Although Mark is hard on the disciples, we can still take courage. For these same disciples who were so blind, so unable to comprehend Jesus, eventually became evangelizers, eventually became strong in their faith, and they became the pillars of the church. And so today, as we approach our Lenten season, let us pray that our ears be opened, that our eyes be able to see, and that we will understand the beauty and the richness of the gospel that we are hearing.